strange error. Don't know what happened. But here we are, yet again. Gonna give it another go. Thanks for hanging around.
You're right, she remained in seclusion. Said when his time of service completed, he returned home. After this, his wife Elizabeth became pregnant and for 5 months remained in seclusion.
Man. That's crazy. Okay, so I am gonna, even though I'm working on the hands, I'm still going to kind of finish out some of the area just around it a little bit, where appropriate. Gonna mix up a little more black here. Burnt sienna, ultramarine blue. If you've watched my videos before, you already know that. And you're like, stop it already. But even these darker values will be really helpful to me, and I can also work into that color a little bit. All right, promise, I'm back, and hopefully we have no more errors, and we'll see what we can accomplish today. Working on the hand here, gonna move from left to right, right-handed. I put my right hand in paint all the time, so it's always helpful when I work in that direction. Establishing some darker values here to just give me a little bit of a foothold where I am, what I'm doing. I'll be able to compare to those points. And you notice I'm still keeping my brushes bigger. You know, these are 6s. Yeah, these are all size 6. It's a great size for blocking in. I want to get these blocked in. Get some of the fun shapes. You know, hands are, you know, it's hard to think, you know, what's as complicated as, like, say, the face. You know, hands are right there with it, just because there's so much, you know, going on. You're dealing with a lot of things to draw correctly. So that you don't end up with some crazy spider thing that people run away from in fear. And I kept, so, you know, as you're looking across here right now, you'll see that, you know, I've got a couple lighter values, some kind of mid-range values, some really dark values, and then this is just, this layer that I'm painting on top of right now is the ground layer. The ground layer is just a wash that I put over everything at the very beginning, just so I wasn't starting on white. It's really hard to start on white and be successful on just a white surface. It's hard to tell what your values are doing. It's hard to make out a lot of really important bits of information. So I always recommend putting down a ground layer rather than just your gesso layer, and you'll find that really helps. It helps you see your values a little clearer, and makes a big difference. And then in this case, I can almost use that. There's a lot of places in this hand that are nearly that color, and so I'm just going to allow that to be there, allow that to kind of show through. As I build up some of these areas. Welcome to the stream, or welcome back, I should say, if you were on just a moment ago. All apologies, strange error, and it just dropped. So, but here today, ready to answer your questions. So I can work on this, and if I'm not helping you in your art making, then I don't know. There's really no reason for me to do it, for me to live stream, other than to assist you in the things that you're working on. So please ask questions. Let me be of assistance. I want to be helpful. Otherwise, David and I are just hanging out in the studio talking about whatever. Or
just silence.
Or silence, yes. So I was talking with David a little bit about the narrative that is being depicted here. And wanting to try to get it right, get it interesting, make it work, make it communicate. So in this story, Mary has traveled to see her close relative, Elizabeth. So this is Elizabeth being depicted here. Mary is on the side here, and it's probably a many-hour walk to get there. Mary at this point is pregnant, and wow, that's all I have to say. Like, to be probably suffering from some exhaustion, and but realizing it's really important to go and visit this person who is also the carrier of someone very special.
Where do you think Mary's mom was at this point?
That's a good question.
Do you think she didn't believe her daughter?
I don't know.
Or did she send her to Elizabeth?
Man, those are good questions. There may be some extra history there available there. In apocryphal writings. Maybe. Looking at some of these darker values underneath the knuckles of the hand. I had to age my model a little bit for this painting, and Elizabeth was older when she became pregnant. And I kind of have the models I have, and people who are nice to come when I request. And so I think it did okay. You can judge if you take a look at my previous video. You can see how well I did, and both working from the model, but yet giving the model just a little more age. So I needed to get that edge really dark there. To try to include some of that age in the hand as well. That may prove to be a challenge. I've spent a lot more time painting portraits. Exciting day today at the Wood household. We are replacing windshields. So if you hear noises, there's three windshields being replaced. Yep, you heard me. 3. Yeah, that's. I promise we're not really we're not tailgaters or anything, but just everything has gotten cracked over the last couple of years. Anyway, here we are, finally replacing many at one time. Be nice, it might save us from that fix-it ticket. Free to share your interesting stories of fixing your windshields.
Her name was Anne.
Anne.
Anne. And Mary's father had died. Oh, supposedly had died. It's in the James, the Gospel of James is where it's depicted, but obviously Gospel of James is not in our version of the New Testament Bible. Because for some reason they've kicked it out.
Yeah, there's a...
And she's often depicted being there when Jesus is kind of growing up and helping around the house, or helping with it.
Yeah, you can't... I mean, families were obviously way more close-knit and together and multi-generational.
It does say that she followed them to Egypt so on her own. So when they went to Egypt, she then went to Egypt after them to help. So that is the backstory of Anne. And never has been depicted when Jesus was an adult, so they're assuming she died after. And she's never depicted at the nativity, so they're assuming she wasn't there at the census because it wasn't probably her census.
Huh.
She did not follow them there.
She had a different family to go to.
Most likely.
Yeah.
But she is depicted at the circumcision and some of the other things that go on. But they often think maybe she is confused for the prophet.
Anna, the prophetess.
Anna,
Yeah.
So they think that some people confuse Anne for.
Which, that's a great segue. That's one of the next paintings I get to make. And is the presentation at the temple. And I will have to figure out how to fit a lot of people into one smaller composition. Challenges ahead.
Challenge accepted.
That's right.
Have you got models in mind for the prophets and the circumciser?
So Simeon is the guy there at the presentation at the temple, and so I might do it.
Yeah.
So I might do it myself, and
You're
then
gonna try to get your father to do it.
and then like. So I'm thinking me. And then I'll just age up a little bit. We did. It was really exciting for the for the nativity. I did have a baby model, so that's really exciting. It's the first time I've ever done that for a piece, so it'll be.
So why isn't the nativity next, or are you saying the next photo shoot is?
Next shoot, next modeling session, all of that is
that, but the next painting is.
Yeah, nativity, which is ready, so I've got that composition built, approved, and it's ready to go.
And probably the most exciting. It's the one everybody knows, even if you're not Christian.
Yeah. It's I think it's looking okay. The challenge is, so one of the things that you want to think about when you're making art, especially if you're doing so in a commission format, as these are, you want to think about where it's going. And I have the advantage on these set of paintings to know where it's going to end up, and in knowing that, I can kind of plan the composition so that they communicate the most effectively. So I know that these paintings are going to be about 20 feet in the air, and that we're still going to want to be able to see the characters, and so they're depicted about this size. Any smaller, if I were to say include the entire figure, and it just wouldn't work. So planning. And I might, since I have a little bit of space around the character here around the hand, as I'm kind of building this space up, I'm going to work on the areas around it too. That'll not only help me with my drawing, but it'll allow me to kind of bump up to some fresh paint. And I've got some color left over from my last session. I'm just going to use a little bit of that. This is a white cloth. Has a little bit of a greenish tint, so took a little bit of my green here. Kind of green, yellow, sort of a look. Grab some of my lead white. That's what's on the, it's the white that I'm using today. It's also the transparent, beautiful white that just does a really good job of capturing skin tones and so many other things that using titanium is just not quite as effective. So I'd be a fan of using lead white. I'm going to use a little bit of this, my skin tone here, right inside. It's just warmer on the inside of where that hand is, and that kind of helps. The light's traveling in, it's bouncing off of the kind of a warm, fleshy finger, and it's then changing the color of that white fabric. It's there. Also, there's a nice cast shadow, and I don't want to try to get it. I'm going to mix a few of my skin tone colors. It does get a little warm in here around the fingers. But this line along the fabric, it just casts a little. The shadow that it casts over this area also falls onto the finger. So this is a great opportunity to really think about the things that are around what you're working on. So again, the finger traveling up into here really sets that hand against the chest. Fingers with this cast shadow that I'm about to kind of apply to this area, again, tells us that this shoulder and this area is kind of coming forth, that's moving back. And those are all the things ways in which you pay attention to those little details, and you're going to have a lot of success in your depiction, no matter what it is. Use overlapping, use light and shadow to your advantage to tell us where things are. I always say it seems like such a simple thing, but yeah, the simplest overlapping shadow or just an object in front of the other makes space happen. So I'm just going to take this cast shadow all the way down, and there'll be a little bit of delicate work in there, but it will be worth it. Some areas are considerably darker, like this area above the finger, and that kind of covers the finger here. And then again, very dark in this region too. These are the fun little spaces that you get them right, and you just really have a lot of depth. And it really feels like the hand is pressed against the fabric, but there's just a little fold that falls over the top of the middle finger, or the shadow that falls. And I'm actually looking at my drawings a little. I guess the drawing's okay. It is maybe a little off there, the nearness of the fabric. I don't think it'll cause any big problems. You might see that little mark there. Does quite a bit. So kind of a warm shadow on the underside of that finger because it's reflecting the light from the other side. So I'm trying to find that, build that up. Just each little bit of information that we're adding here is building upon the next, and really letting us get there. Now comes the windshields.
One is on. Second one is about to be fully on.
Wow.
And I don't know about the third one.
Can't see. I laid that color, it's a little too red. That's why, I've got these greens, these oranges, these kind of purples, these skin tones. I can just bounce it back a little bit. If it's like, whoop, that went a little too far, or that didn't quite achieve what I wanted. and I can return to it. This plane of the finger, just kind of been almost broken into 3 different planes the way I've painted it. Again, still using my size 6 brushes, wanting to kind of put down the major shapes, keep it very alive and interesting, not getting too bogged down on like little details. Those are going to come probably really soon. So I have to describe the fingernails, and I won't be putting in the multicolored ice cream style. I'll be going for a natural look. So, but they do still help. Just the fact that the nail is described sitting there does tell me what I need to know about the orientation. Fingers are many times more kind of red and ruddy, and so those fingertips especially just get a lot warmer. So you don't have to be afraid to really pump up the red in and around the fingertip, because what that does is that it's just one of those things we all know from seeing often, and those are those bits of information that I'm always looking for when it comes to skin tones, is that those little things that are so second nature to us, and I'm keying into those, and you can too. Working on both hands today. It's the order of the day. This one and this one. We'll keep going, I guess, if it keeps going well, but try not to get too far ahead of myself. 2 hands in one day, that's a good amount of work. That might be about all we get. Light on that pinky. Got a warm cast shadow on it. These are the things that are just about impossible to see on a live stream video, but that give so much life to a painting. Paying attention to your warms and cools, especially in skin tones. It just goes so far. Creating something that looks alive and so this is kind of a nice example of each one of these fingers coming around in a kind of circular way, with using both light and making this finger darker and these a little lighter so that they come forward. It is what happens in the source material as well. But just knowing that, you can, make these do the things you want them to do. There's an interesting degree of intuition when it comes to working from the model or working on a portrait, where sometimes you just need something to work a certain way. And playing with your value, your lights and darks, you can get it to move for you. It doesn't need to come forward, it doesn't need to go back. Those are things that you can adjust, make subtle adjustments to value, lightness and darkness. Same thing happens with color intensity. So colors, high chroma colors, so high intense, highly saturated color comes forward, low saturated color retreats. You can use that. And then you can also use color temperature. So warm colors come forward, cool colors recede, and those plays you can use to your advantage to create some incredible space creating kind of moments. I really want these fingers to become the far closest to the viewer, and I want the other ones to kind of sweep around, and so I can give them that little more value that's there. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to, at this point, get out the smaller brush, work on a few edges, and then I think we can maybe move on from there. Hey, good to see you, Vincent. Thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in. I am back and better than ever, I think. Yeah, trying to improve the experience here. Got the multicam thing going there, so you can see my palette, and you can also see what I'm working from. So man, there's just it is all out there. So thanks for being here, sir. It's myself and David in the studio. So Sean is out. I think this is his, I heard him leave this morning. I believe it's maybe his first day at college, that guy. So really excited. Really excited for him and this next season that he's starting. Vincent, how have you been? All right, I think it's time now to break out some of the smaller brushes. I'm going to try to leave the hand a little rough. I will get out my buffer brush here. I'm going to leave my edges just a little harder, hopefully to create a little more age in the hand. But I will need to describe a few details. All within that delicate space of not going too far. What's the hard part? Another one of those good points to these areas that are really dark next to and behind, to make sure I go ahead and put in some of the surrounding color so that I can just nudge into that some. Okay, little brush time. And the highest highlight when I look at this is undoubtedly the kind of area right in here between the fingers. And I've spoken about this a time or two with like drapery. I kind of used to think that it was all about the highest point, the peak. That was the brightest or nearest to the light, and that's true. There's some things that are, the closer you get to the light, of course, the lighter it is. But also some of these areas where there's space in between, kind of the valley, can sometimes be the most intense, especially if light is bouncing around in there. It can really create even a little brighter point, a highlight almost, right there. So you'll see that when I break out the little brush, it's not to necessarily tell all of the details as much as to clean up some of the edges that I didn't have finished to the degree that I was happy with. And there's nothing wrong with using small brushes, you know. But I've been a little bit of the opinion that if a big brush will do the trick, then, you know, use it. Because that bigger brush is going to allow me to tell us about a plane of color. Shape, 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 shape. I think I might have to take a break. I just heard the doorbell. Be right back, everybody. People weren't beating down the door to get in here and watch this stream. And if you look on my source material there, you'll see that I'm building these images out of multiple different images. They're put together really rough, and I'm just looking to kind of finish them out, as it were, and do so here in the painting, because it at least gives me an idea of what I'm looking at composition wise, and then the rest is this kind of subtle building and taking away again, and until it feels like it works. And when doing fingernails, much like any small detail, just enough is always the goal. Getting just enough that it really works, and then not doing any more. So you might see that I'm just kind of doing these small little adjustments until I see like that. Maybe I need to be much zoomed in, much closer. Would probably be, maybe we can for this next hand, we can really get in close to this hand. But the mark just, it got there and it worked, but it took a little bit to get there for it to really work. One of the fun things that I like to do is just leave some of this ground layer in here and there. When it works, just leave it there. Finger that's being the shadow cast on it, or to darken it some. Till it's really kind of sitting in there. Kind of an interesting light situation. What's my rate over there, David? If you can see in the bottom right-hand corner.
Drop frames or?
The bottom right-hand corner, all the way to the very edge.
2550.
Okay. That's
2691, 2729.
Yeah.
2618.
Just is saying that it's not receiving enough, but it's fine. I mean, it's not great. Rather be 4,000 plus. Okay, we are getting there. This hand's nearly done. And now I am just searching for those little last bits of information. Especially here around the fingernails and and I'm going to move into the next hand. We're going to try to really zoom in on it and see if we can get a little more detail. The camera might be a little far back. It's always the challenge. How can I make the most of some of the angles I have? And what starts to happen is starting to lose the initial energy that I had from fiddling. So now it becomes a little bit of a back and forth until that is working again. Line needs to come up just because this other shadow is, just barely on the shadow side, just touching it. Some of the white cloth here, I'm going to come in and adjust. Shadow on that finger was a little funny too, so that straightening out helped. And with that, I really kind of happy with that one. I'm going to make a move to this next hand and kind of see what happens. If you're here on the stream, I'm gonna move the camera around and make some adjustments, scoot the painting some, and just see if we can work on this hand. I'm going to get in a little closer. And really make it uncomfortable for myself. I mean, it's kind of already that, but just to focus a little bit. Yeah, I think that's gonna do it. Why this time I did the hands first, I can't really tell you. Well, no, I can't tell you. I decided I wanted to do a face first, and so it gave me the opportunity to mix up some skin tones, which I have here, which hopefully you can kind of see here on the left, and colors across the top are what I use to mix those with. So in taking a look at this next hand, I'm gonna, just like I have on previous steps, I'm gonna begin by blocking in some major areas. I've already put down a little bit of oil, rub in just a little more. That just gives a little bit of, so I'm not painting directly onto a dry surface. It's helpful. My mixed black, which is ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, I'm gonna start by just putting some of that in along this edge. Nice fresh bit of it right along this edge here. That'll allow me to work into it when I begin using some of these darker values along the edge. That also tells me just how dark I'm planning on getting everything around the hand. That's always a good indicator. And when I work on the red fabric around the hand eventually, then I'll be able to tint this, well, tint's the wrong word, but I'll be able to make the shadow appear as though it's reddish and warm by just putting a really thin layer of alizarin crimson over the top of it. So here I am again, building up these big shadows, even though this is sort of not part of the hand, but technically part of the garment underneath. But it's a good fixed point for me to compare what else is happening. And we got those shadows in place. Paying attention to my shadow here, I drew it wrong. It's going to need to be down. That's a little too high. We'll have to fix that in painting. Although I might be able to rub out a little bit of it here. All right. All right, I think that's those are good darks established, and we're going to begin working on the skin tone there of the hand. And if you just joined, feel free to ask a question. If you're watching this at a later date, drop a comment in. Happy to answer any and all questions you might have. So I'm going to start by putting in what I deem to be the darkest point of what I'm looking at here, which is this kind of upper part of her hand, wrist area. And then I'm going to do the same underneath that index finger. It's a little redder there, and so I dipped into my CAD red medium so that I could just get a little bit of that red shadow, and that carries on pretty much all the way to the end there. Underneath here, the shadow is kind of reddish, but strangely enough, it looks a little bluer, a little purpley. So I do have these other mixtures here to kind of help with that. So since I put that black in, I can just kind of move just slightly into it. And even though it's not as intense, I'll kind of carry on that shape there of the radius and ulna here. I'm not sure which one at the moment. I think that one's the ulna that's sticking out there. Whichever the one doesn't move, right? No, they both move. I don't know. I forgot my classes, my anatomy and physiology classes. Did have to do quite a bit of study, as one would assume, in life drawing class. We did a number of skeletal studies and, of course, muscle. We even had to kind of guess at it. I remember picking Jackie Chan to be my kind of pose for, I don't know, because I wanted to, just kind of doing a cool kung fu move, and for my skeletal drawing and musculature build. was fun. I don't know that I have any of those things anymore. So you get a pretty good red right here. This edge is going to be red, and that's something that's we're not going to really be able to see until we do finally put in the red fabric, and then a lot of these colors will just make a little more sense. You know, and these edges probably really hard to see in the live stream, but those are all very necessary. So I think what I've done here is mostly put in, I take that back. I'm going to come in here with this little warm dark and establish the line here that it's not black and it's not really, but it just has a little more warmth to it. Those fingers pressed together, and that color will show. We'll do the same here. Okay. All right. Again, I'm still working with 6s for my brushes to build the main shapes of the hand. So we're going to focus on the back part of the wrist to the back of the palm, and then we'll kind of have to get into each finger as its own little volume. But right now we'll work on this main area and really establishing it. I've already mixed up some skin tones. If you want to find out why I mix these and what I mix them for, you are welcome to drop into the last video I just put out, and I go over all that. It was supposed to be a live stream. It didn't work out that way, as sometimes happens. So hard to see that I put in any color there at all, right? Because you're already seeing this ground layer, which is the wash that is currently showing through. But it'll slowly make itself known as we go. So kind of work my way into this light side here. It stays fairly kind of light and purpley. And as you can see, if you're not kind of focusing on anything else, this is already working. These few little marks kind of following this gradation. It's already starting to do the thing. I'm gonna grab into that kind of I don't know, lighter, darker, kind of in between, mid-range. Want a little more red on the back of here as a little sun. I've got some color here that here we go. And it's probably a little too much. In fact, it is, but we can work back into that. Agnes, good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks. Sorry, I have I'm solo here today with David. David's working on things that he should be working on. You know, he's as a good employee, and Sean is away. So Agnes, it's good to see you, and thanks for being here. Is it lunchtime already, or is it break time, or is something else fun happening? Day off, maybe? So kind of working on, again, staying big with the brush, working my 6s here, and building up this, and we'll probably come back to it. Got some mess to clean up there. Awesome. Glad to have you, Agnes. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. Hey, that is a great segue. You know, did you know that Agnes actually is making this stream possible? Yeah. Thanks for being a patron, Agnes, and everyone else who's watching right now. You know, you have you can tell her thank you as well for making things like this possible. Yeah, so Agnes, this might have been the first time that I've had like both palette view and source view out. I'm trying to be, I don't know, as helpful as possible, and maybe people can get into my mind a little better about what I'm doing, because you know I'm not always good at saying what I'm doing or even thinking about it in the right way, and so you know, in kind of keeping this filbert, this 6, I'm, you know, I want to follow some of these lines I'm seeing in the back of her hand, and you know, there's kind of an interesting a bit of a triangle shape here, so I'm just following that, following space here around this knuckle. But yes, as I was saying on the previous video I released yesterday, which was supposed to be a live stream Saturday, but totally didn't happen. Just 'cause the internet wasn't being friendly. I just went ahead and recorded it, and so I was working on one of the faces, and I'd already had some skin tones mixed out and ready, and you can kind of follow along, and I talk about the mixing and kind of what I'm thinking when I'm doing it. That's there and available. Feel free to check that out at some point. But my goal is to create these little triads of secondary colors, and these oranges, greens, purples, to really say it crudely, of darks, mids, lights, and highlights, and then playing around with those, dipping them into kind of the rest of the colors I have on my palette, to achieve the look that I'm going for. Get this wrist bone highlight. And I like just continuing to work this, you know, kind of shape at a time until it gets there, and you know that's different each time. Sometimes it takes a bit to get there. I have a tendency to kind of just put the color down, and I know some people are very much of the attitude, and some instructors of like, no, you got to get the color right before you do it, and I see why, but I can always change it when I get in there, and at least this gives me a little bit of knowledge as where to go, because sometimes, you know, it's just my skill level of painting. I can't just see it until I can't really see it until it's there and on the canvas with all the other elements. As much as I have everything mixed out here, it doesn't translate until it's there, and so I have to Just a little. I have to really get it on there first so I can see it first. This little shape here I'm seeing kind of makes its way toward the wrist. Make sure that I'm kind of getting that. This stage is a lot of looking. It's a lot of looking back and forth, and I don't know if my head is at all visible. I hope not. I mean, that's the idea. That it's not really getting in your way. But it's just really this back and forth shape. I'm checking the drawing because the accuracy here, especially around the hands, some of these spaces is going to be really important. A little cooler in this area of the hand. Always, it's interesting. Get some cooler colors here, warmer on the palm. Just following some of those things that happen. Knowing those, I mean, I guess you could maybe call them rules, but I try not to do that too much. I don't like rules when it comes to painting. Start to get a little bit of paint on top of these knuckles before I start building it up. And again, I can even see, talking about making those adjustments. They're going to be really important, so that even the movement of that shadow is really important to accurately describing the structure of the hand. So, sorry, just took a look back there. Agnes, do you announce each live stream? I didn't know this one was happening. I'm so sorry. I've been in a little more of a rush, and so I think probably the best way is to, like, I get a notification on my phone every time I start a live stream. So that might, I think you can set up YouTube on the app so that it gives a notification, I think. So. Hey, looking for music though. That's good. I want to listen to music. Torin, I hope you're listening somewhere. Maybe you're hearing me call out. My buddy Torin is making some music for these live streams, and I'm kind of dying for it. Although I might not be able to hear it if we have to kind of play it through the other computers. So I might have to have a headphone in or something just so that I can be channeling it. I'll understand, Agnes, if you'd rather listen to music. So, yeah, there's a way to get notifications when the stream goes live. I'm trying. It's tough. I don't want to bombard patrons with notifications either. Like, that, hey, I'm live streaming today. And so I'm trying to find that that good in between, and maybe people want to be bombarded with that, like, hey, yeah, I want to know, send it through to Patreon, and then I'll do that. I just wish there was a way, I guess, to notify those who want to know, and to not do so otherwise. So okay, kind of working my way up the hand, and what inevitably happens is I get to a space that I'm like, oh, I kind of missed that. Okay. Well, thanks. Well, hopefully YouTube will. It should. I think I don't know. Don't all the serious YouTubers always say, don't forget to hit the bell or something? Is that a thing? David, is that a thing?
I have no idea. I don't watch YouTube.
Like,
I know, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
yeah, it was that subscribe button, but then I think they also will say and hit the bell. I don't know. I need to work on it.
What's the bell?
I think the bell means notifications, right? And so I think it's a notification. So okay, I need to get this little shadow in down here. And at this point, I'm not really using any thinner. I've always been a very dry brush sort of a painter. The thinner makes it too loosey-goosey for me. And I have mixed, I guess, a little bit of the walnut oil gel into some of these. So I guess I can't say that I'm completely thinner free, but largely so. I'm hoping this hand doesn't feel too large. I redrew it a little bit. After the fact, because it just felt big. I don't know. Saw a better shape there. That was looking a little too clunky. And those are the things that I'm constantly making little adjustments on. It's like it was just a little too straight, and there was just this nice little motion that I don't even think I really have completely, to be honest. That just looked way better after the fact. Probably the most frustrating thing about doing hands, faces, is these little millimeter changes that make such a big difference. And it's like, oh, why did that work? It's just, I'm as puzzled as the next person. Help if you hear kids yell. That would be because there's a bunch of them here right now. Studio door is locked though, so I mean they might bang on it at some point, I guess. You hit the bell. Awesome. Go ahead and put in this little shadow here just so that it starts to turn the form a little bit. That won't be really recognizable until I get the rest of the stuff in there. All right. why I wanted to do that right then. I don't know. So still kind of keeping some of the bigger brushes. This might actually be a 3. I don't know. I've long since rubbed off the print on it. Mixing a little, just to be a little more pinky purpley. That color seems to kind of go all the way up through the middle there. Some variation, sure. That's one of the nice things about this process on top of the ground layer, which you still see parts of, is the ground layer just sometimes works. And it's nice to, I will leave it there as is. Sometimes it's almost obscene. Okay. And this edge, I'm going to work up so I can kind of see what the value is doing there. Same. And I'm just using my filbert on that side and just painting sideways. That's one of the ways that I continually punish these brushes and have to replace them so often. Especially the flats when I do that to them. Yeah, so you can see already that's just like a weird sausage shape. I'll have to kind of sort that out, give it a little more shape, and I may even, I don't know, maybe I'll mix some of that red up and put it around it so it'll just help me with my drawing. Sometimes I'll do that. I'll just work in, I'll say, ooh, you know, I need to adjust the drawing and I want to just paint back over some of the stuff that I've done. And so we might have an occasion for mixing up some of that red and putting it down. Okay, I see what I don't like. It's up here. I think I'm gonna mix a little bit of that red up actually. Which, you know, got some old dead paint here. Alizarin Crimson, a little burnt sienna, probably close. I'm gonna lighten it some with some cad red. I don't want to go too far. This is like the smallest amount since these are really don't need a lot of it, and it's probably pretty close. I will get out its own brush for this area. Good question, Agnes. I am not doing downtown. I've decided against it. It was just a little season's getting a little too busy, and so I am gonna refrain. Ooh, that too intense. Still too much. That's all right. The pressure's on in completing this set of images, and so I'm not gonna head down to Texas in the fall. So I regret I won't be there. Planning on the spring, however. So I made some of that color up just so that I could move, and you can probably still see it, the old line, the old drawing line, down some so that we had more of a shape like this. And it just needed to happen so that I didn't hate it so much. Next thing is really making sure that really get this thumb. You're casting a shadow. I think it's just a little too light in that area right now. Now I can take a little bit of that red though. I mixed it up and create some of these shadows. A little too orangey. So we'll have to kind of neutralize that some. So it's nice about having a little bit of the green here. You know, I can bring that kind of green in, some, and knock that down so it's not so intense. All right. Get my little brush. Just want to get this line, shadow line really established. Even a thing like where a shadow begins, ends, how thick or how thin it is, it just can get bizarre, bizarre quick. Just careful drawing attention, always needed. You know, and even as I'm looking, I still think it's maybe just a little too... The thumb itself is just a little thicker than it needs to be. And even I feel much better about those, like that millimeter that I just adjusted it for. So crazy. Figure painting, smallest of things. I'm seeing that I need to take this a little farther up. That was probably part of it too. So that knuckle was just a little too far back. This always shocks me. I'm gonna nudge that knuckle forward some. And, you know, of course that doesn't look really very good right now, but a lot of white paint underneath there, just because I misplaced it. So I'm going to have to really overdo it in that area with color in order to cover. I'm going to really just have to kind of go thickly on here. So dig up a little more. That's just so that I could shift it forward some. And of course, now I look at it, it looks like I didn't need to do that. I don't know. Here's the constant back and forth of, hey, I think this is the solution. Well, that didn't quite do it. So here again, hey, just so everyone knows, not planning on painting the ice cream cone fingernail polish on. Can't believe my models would do this to me. Yeah, that would be cool. Agnes, I think you should apply to it. It'd be great to see you there and see your booth in person. That'd be cool. So I did. They were giving the option to artists to move the. You could move it back to Memorial Park. So they did let me do that because I was slated for a downtown, and I just knew that I was getting a little too busy. Frankly, getting a little stressed out too about it all. So it's just as well. It's a good thing that I'll be staying here. I get to do a unique thing too, and this is why, just how busy it was getting, and I need to announce this to patrons. So your ears first, Agnes. I've got a meeting with one of the kind of directors of the Portrait Society of America, and he's Michael Shane Neal. He's having everyone over to his place, for some kind of a bit of a demonstration, a bit of I don't know, kind of a hangout, maybe get to know you, just all paint together sort of a thing. So I'm really looking forward to that. I really hope it all goes through, just with the virus and everything. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But that's happening also in October, and I don't think it overlapped, but it would have meant that I'm gone the first weekend of October, the second weekend of October, and the third. And just giving the nature of the size of the commission, I knew that I'm working on right now, I was probably gonna start having freak out moments. So I won't be there, but I'm glad that you'll be there. Yeah, one of the things I was excited about with the Portrait Society thing was like, oh, I'm gonna get to meet a lot of the other artists, and then I just didn't get to do that because none of it was in person. And so I think this gets to be a little bit of that, where I'll get to actually meet some individuals and hopefully get on some radars, I hope. Okay, we're getting there. I'm slowly building, and I've kind of worked this way and kind of working into each of the fingers, still trying to mostly block them in. And then once they're all sort of roughly blocked in, usually what I have to then clean up are the edges. And that is proving true this time as well. A little too dark there. That's all right. I'll continue to use it. And you'll notice I'm not trying to describe every wrinkle as much as an overall value thing that's happening in each of these knuckles. And then it kind of carries on into the finger. Those fleshy ends of the finger that are always redder. Get a little, want it to be a little lighter than that. Don't want to go overboard here, but there we go, that's good. And I'll then paint the nail kind of on top of that, just so that I have some color in these places. I like to go ahead and drop some of this in. And it's interesting how those little adjustments are, really starts to even begin working more in this really rough, unfinished way. Just funny to me how just a little bit more information starts to read as fingers, and this will always be very puzzling to me, this whole process. So I'll do the same thing here. I'm just going to try to describe kind of the nail bed. Same bit. I gotta keep going here. And once more, twice more. Nice thing with like kind of starting this way out with the paint is that the paint's also kind of decaying in the same way that the light would be decaying. And so the most intense areas, here right at the cuticle, and then kind of fading out. That worked a lot better than I thought it would. So, we're getting there. It's so hard kind of even in this space where I'm like, oh, it's kind of working for me. If it were my painting, I might just like stop right there. But I'm gonna render it out a little more. Yes, model photo sessions. Yep, no, that's good. Okay, model photo sessions are. I'm usually thinking about how, and great question. Thanks for asking it. I just appreciate it. So modeling sessions are usually, I've got an idea in my head about how it's going to go. I've got a picture. I've done my research. In this case, for like this painting and the future paintings of the series, I've got a lot of art history that I get to kind of go back into and pour over and get acquainted with. And so I'm looking at art history first, And then I'm kind of coming up with, because you can do these scenes really really boringly. And looking at art history, there's obviously winners when it comes to compositions and just interest. And so so I'll have that stuff in my mind, and then I'll set up the model, set up the lighting, use just a set of lights and stands. I kind of try to do a softer light. So, and here's where the photographer who's listening or watching would be like, you have no idea how to talk about lighting, and you're right, I don't. I use just a kind of a refracted and diffused light that bounces off an umbrella that comes back, and that just kind of is my light source, and that's maneuverable. I can change and move that around. And then from there, it's just a matter of modeling. And I usually focus on parts rather than the whole. Although while we try to do a whole scene, even though like I had 2 models here, we did a few poses that were kind of incorporating the whole scene, but largely it was piecemeal. And so I would focus solely on one of the models, and until I felt like I'd have the other one just hold general pose, and until I felt like I got something that really excited me, I would just kind of keep working at it. And then even after I feel like I got something, so if I was like, okay, that's it, yep, this is good. Even after that, I'll usually do a few more just kind of general, okay, let's see what happens scenes. And I'll usually have them enter a movement. I'll usually have them either coming forward or have her reach out and touch the belly, reach out, touch, and we would try, maybe 20, 30 of those, trying different things, holding it. And then I might go in and actually sculpt it. So sculpt the hand so that it looks, the kind of right amount of finger randomness. and always aiming for kind of, those just art historical hands, which are so nice because they communicate so much, and they're just so beautiful. And so I'm always kind of thinking about that. So we'll do that with the hands. We'll do that with the faces. And that is just a long time of adjustment until I feel like I've kind of achieved some of the things that I was setting out to do. And then, that's the session itself. And then after that, I bring all those back, and that's really where I guess kind of the magic starts to happen. And I start poring over those pictures, and there's always like kind of just a dead giveaway with like a face or a hand gesture or where it's like, okay, this one by far communicates the best, and has all of those things I'm looking for. Very, very rarely do I have to settle, but there's a definite standout winner every time. And so I'll start building it. And so you can see, I think, if I turn around here, so you can see, it's hard to see, yeah, I take that back. So in the little source photo there, I've got, there are, around the hands that I'm currently working on, there are a bunch of photoshopped hands that are just builds. So it's kind of nice to have a lot of drapery, because it hides joints and things like that otherwise wouldn't work. And so I'll begin piecing together hands, and low light helps with that too. If the light is a little lower, then you don't have to worry about it. You can kind of like, all of a sudden this hand can be coming out of the darkness, and it's okay. No one's going to question it. And so that helps too, is to, in some of my more lower light scenes, that to kind of achieve that piecemeal thing where I'm taking all of the various parts and putting them together. And I should probably record, probably record a video of that process. That would be really valuable. Just kind of with my thinking, just do a screen record. It's a good idea. I need to do that. And then, of course, all of those things are sort of happening, and I'm trying to be aware of what kind of the overall composition. So I'm like moving them around, even within the frame, so that just the balance feels right. And I would say that process is kind of like my drawing process, and even my little oil sketch process. That's all what's happening there, is that kind of ongoing fiddling with all of the elements until I feel like, okay, that's there and that's working. And until that happens, it can be a little frustrating sometimes. Probably the worst things that happen are, I've already had the model come. We got some great work, and I'm happy with most of the stuff. However, inevitably, I miss some good drapery sculpting. That's a whole nother side of it. Kind of like sculpting the drapery or the costuming so that works. A whole nother kind of thing to think about. And it's a great thing about having Anna, my wife, there at these shoots, is that she really helps me see that side of it. So she's kind of working while I'm working on the drape and that aspect, and it makes a big difference because she can kind of spot some of those problems. Sometimes a piece of cloth just comes out really weird, and it's like sticking out sideways or just doing strange, bizarre things. So, but yeah, I don't know if that was much of an overview. If you have a specific question about the modeling session, please feel free to ask. It's good. No, it's good for me to think about and to talk about. Maybe bring a crew. Well, a lot of times too, I'm really I'll be working, and here's 100%. Here's why I stick with the same couple of models. We get to know each other really well, and so I can tell my model, I can tell her, yeah, we need to do something with the hands. That's a little more interesting, and she knows kind of already what it is I'm looking for, and to me that just helps. So having a handful of the same people around, while one of the questions I get so often is like, who's your model? You sure paint this person a lot. And I'm like, well, it's because each of us knows each other really well. She knows the artistic vision I'm trying to achieve. And she can almost do those poses without my direction. And even when it's not working for me, when I'm having a harder time with it, I'll say, this is just not working. And I think even in this scene here, I was like, this isn't working. And my model, she was suddenly like, well, you should try draping the head covering on a different side, on the other side. And we made that change, and it was the answer. So as much as like you'd think, oh, I am the artist in charge of this photo session or something. It's like my model and I have worked together for a number of years, and she already knows what's going to work too, or she kind of has a really, really good a clue as to which direction to go in. So I don't know. Let it be said, consistency and find someone who really works and kind of knows what you're looking for. Yeah, she's been really helpful. So props. I won't say her name. I don't know if she wants her name known. So, but she has she's saved the shoot more times than I care to admit, because she has a good idea of how it'll work, and I think that's just from just us knowing each other. So I'm working on the edges now a little bit in the hand, where I did those kind of major block ends, and then I'm going to bring in the edges and the shapes so that they are working together. Yeah, you bet, Agnes. Happy to help. If there's, I don't know, I'm trying to think if there's anything more specific. And even on simple still lives, things like that I could probably just set up and work from. There is an ease with which still taking the photo, I can still play around with that composition. I can put it in the frame where I want it. A lot of times the simple still lives are just one object, so it's kind of a no-brainer. But other times, what height feels more appropriate, I think, is a thing to think about. What height feels right, and what because sometimes something feels heavier or feels more in place if it's lower in the picture plane, and so I like to, even some of the simpler little studies that I'm sure to most people look not very thought out, those are still built in a similar way. A lot of props too. So like I will prop a piece of fruit up because at that point it's a little more of an interesting angle. So there'll be these little things back behind, just so it's kind of funny. Things would never sit that way in real life, but you're like, well, this will work if I do it this way. So the paintings that are like multiple individuals, there's still very little going on like as the whole. I'm still trying to talk to kind of isolate each person, even though everyone else will remain in the shot. I will really focus on one person at a time. It's about all I can do. I'm not a big multitasker, I guess. And then even when it comes to the one person, a lot of times I'm focusing on one aspect of that person. A bit more of a shadow underneath the hand here. Let's see. Still trying to kind of use, it's not something I talk about very much, or maybe I do, where I'm kind of thinking about following form when I'm making mark. So even these little marks here, so trying to kind of turn in. It's kind of sad. I needed to make it a little darker there, but I lost some of my prettier color. It was kind of greenish. That happens too. Sometimes I just don't want to do it because, like, oh, I like that area. I don't want to fix it. But then sometimes it's like, nope, you gotta go fix it. Then it gets sad. I think I can still pull in some. Cool this area off a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's working. Uh-oh, phone call. Hello? It is, yes.
Okay, my name is Nancy, and I'm with Robinson on the Glass, and I was calling you back in regards to some windshields for a 2010 Honda CRV, an '01 Honda CRV, and an '04 Honda Odyssey.
Yes.
And I did check, and you have the glass in stock for the '01 and but on the 2010, I would have to order that glass in from out of town. And are you finding the individual prices, or do you want the total cost?
Oh, just a total estimate, please.
Okay. The total for all three windshields to be installed with tax would be $729.81. And we are a mobile service company, so we would go to where the vehicles are completed and install the glass on site.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I was just trying to, really wanted to do before any ordering or anything. That was just kind of get some estimates. So you got it. I'll mark it down. I appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Well, just let us know if that's something that you'd like to get scheduled.
Thanks very much.
All right. You're welcome.
Bye. Hey, they came in pretty close. I didn't have the heart to tell her. I don't know. We've got pretty exciting things going on. Hey, Brock, good to see you. What's up? I was on the phone. We had three windshields replaced at once in our neck of the woods. So that was another quote. I didn't really have the heart to tell her that literally outside, it just all happened. Somebody came and fixed them all. Oh, I couldn't do it. Hey, but the price quote was, you know, it's pretty on. So pretty consistent. So I'll give him that. This fingernail, make a little lighter. The light is just hitting it slightly more than the others. Yeah, I don't like to put too much detail in these areas. You know, I want them to work, and as soon as they do, you know, that's run away, you're done. Getting a little bit of a highlight here. Play up some of those. Not too much though. Okay, that's probably a little, I got a little carried away there, so I'm gonna knock these down here. You just get carried away sometimes, it happens. Excited for the palette cam. I'm glad. You know, a good friend of mine who actually, I'll just go ahead and reveal him. He's the guy who shot all the other videos, the ones that are like look super professional. He's just selling some of his camera equipment and asked me if I wanted to keep some of it, and well, by keep, buy. And so I was like, you know, I really wanted to support him, and I knew that also I could use them and make the most from having the everything. Use the old camera for the palette, use the new camera for what I'm working on here. So here we are. We upgraded sooner than we thought was going to happen. Just couldn't pass it up. So good friend, couldn't say no to, because after all, I think his work on the channel really continues to stand out. I mean, his videos are beautiful that he did. I wish I could afford them. David sounds like he's hungry. In case you just heard that growl. It is nearing lunchtime and about time for us to nearing wrap-up time. Not at least for this session. Probably be back later in the afternoon. Okay, so I'm gonna get just a few more. Just gonna get this interesting shadow on the back of her hand. Sometimes though, it looks better without it. And you're like, huh, I shouldn't have put that in there. I don't know, I don't like it as much. Which I think brings up a great point. Sometimes just because it's there doesn't mean you should do it. It just doesn't work as well. Like that, lightening that up, it's better, even though the reference shows otherwise. To me, it just didn't look right. Okay. I think we're getting there. So I'm going to exaggerate some of the tendons on the hand here. The character is supposed to be older, and so I'm going to just do a little bit of work here and there to kind of create some more of that age. So I'm just going to exaggerate kind of on the back here as well. Give it maybe just a little more of a kind of a sunken in feeling. And just kind of grazing. So maybe I do need to add some of that color back in there. And again, we don't need to go too far, but just a few of those marks, age it out just slightly. Add a little more character to the hand. So, yes, Agnes, I should be back on the same URL. I'm trying to keep it the same all of the time. I think that's okay to do. I don't know. Probably means I'll get hacked at some point. But yes, that's my plan. Same URL. Can't say it. So yeah, we'll probably be bouncing out in the next few minutes. I do want to wrap up the hand. I hate to. Good stopping points are good stopping points, and I like to at least kind of finish out what I was working on. It's kind of tough not to. These little kind of rounded marks. I kind of just I need to adjust this, make it lighter again. Actually, that's the problem. That's the problem with painting. You're just constantly finding things you want to fix. And then you want to fix them, but you create more problems, and so on and so forth. You have to probably get a little of the detail brush. Just needs to round that form a little bit. It wasn't quite turning in like I wanted it to, but it's better now. Yes, hopefully it does notify Agnes, I hope. I just hear absolute kid bedlam outside of the studio door. I mean, it's not too loud. Somebody's gonna end up crying. I'll just tell you right now. And this is the kind of sort of thing that happens. It's all fun until somebody gets hurt. I like to have my have my son in here live streaming. I don't remember how many days ago, and he was adding his commentary, and you know, everyone's own kid is cute to them, but you know, every other kid is it's not. It's like so I'm sure we didn't get a lot of viewership on that one. Go, we're getting there. I think I see one. Let's see another little move. This is just a refining phase, and the refining phase is so hard to really show on a stream or on a video, period. I suppose if I was really zoomed in here and you could see, and I had really good color grading and all sorts of stuff happening, but I don't. You'd be able to make out some of these smaller changes that are really doing the work. We've already done the heavy lifting, and this is the finesse section, which I'm increasingly good with how this is going. Deciding how much more I really want to do. I just took a peek on the video. Doesn't look so hot on the video, sorry. You have to trust me on this one.
It's true.
That looks bad, doesn't it? Yeah, it's a little just too
close.
Too close to it, do you think?
Maybe. I don't know. Or it's too...
maybe it's starting to get blown out a little bit, maybe.
You're being calm.
I'm being calm. I'm being summoned. Maybe I darken it a little bit. No? That help? No? Okay, just trust me. Trust the artist that he's doing okay.
If you don't trust him, he's doing okay.
Yeah, all right. Trust the other guy. Yeah, trust the other guy in the room.
But I guess it does look like she's like holding the pregnant lady is bleeding right now.
Okay. Yikes. We'll fix that before we take it to the client.
It's just her.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's funny. It's like oh yeah, you're right. You're so right. That goes to show you just how far removed I am from what the whole looks like and how like focused I am in on what I'm working on. So, all right. I did get summoned. I think that means that lunchtime is coming. So we'll return. I'll do the same thing. I didn't expect to get 2 hands accomplished, so we're gonna do the same thing with the other hands, I guess. And I'll see how it goes. So I thank you for being here. Much appreciated. Be back on this afternoon, and I appreciate the questions. Thanks again, Agnes. Thanks again, Brock. Good to see you. And anyone else who did not make themselves known, appreciate you, and we'll be back soon.